I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
For him, it was just the commitment to try to understand or try to get somewhere.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is about culture shock. We don't like to face our prejudice. It's a concept that carries uncomfortable implications about our moral compass. And yet we all have preconceptions that we hold with us. The art, in some sense, is to be aware of our preconceptions and not allow them to dominate our experience. Our guests today come from two distinct American cultures. Dylan is a Marine sergeant from a small town in Pennsylvania, and Samantha is a gallery artist who comes from Berkeley, California. Now, these two fell in love and they got married, but as you can imagine, love was the easy part. Managing their preconceptions and merging their cultures was the real work. Now, to set the stage for this interview, I was introduced via text message to Samantha and Dylan while I was on a road trip in the desert. They invited me over to their place, and I arrived after dark, having been on the road all day. And to get to their house, you have to drive a tiny pitted dirt road off this lonely stretch of desert highway outside of 29 Palms, California. And at the far end of that dusty little dirt road is a little old house sitting by itself atop a vast mesa overlooking the 29 Palms Marine Base. There's nothing but coyotes and scrub brush out there, and it's pitch black at night. And with that as our backdrop, we set up my gear on their deck and sat under the stars drinking cocktails to record this interview. It was ethereal and magical, and I wish you could have been there with us. So with that, let's go to the very sweet first half of our interview with Samantha and Dylan.
I lived in the Bay Area, and my girlfriend and I, it was her birthday, and we decided to come out to the desert. The only place that we knew to go to was Pappy and Harriet's.
Yes, the classic.
The classic spot, the watering hole of the desert.
Right.
And so we went out, and we arrived pretty late. And we got ready in her truck, and we went in, and I was ordering her margarita for her birthday, and I looked over, and Dylan was sitting at the bar, and I looked over at him, and I turned around to my best friend, and I was like, I'm in love with him. I'm that guy right there. And she was like, no, shut up. No. It was one of those stupid instant moments. It was there, and I kind of dropped it for a second. I was like, okay, back to friend's birthday.
Back to reality.
Yes, gotta do the celebrations. It's all about her today, and yeah. So we went over and sat in the little couch pool area. And
pool table
area.
Just for clarification.
We just
right. There's no pools at Pappy and Harriet's.
No.
Except they're dust pools.
Different type of water hole. And we sat there for a bit, and then my guy, the love of my life, came over and asked if I wanted to play pool. He was with some of his Marine dudes, and I hate playing pool, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to go for this. How am I going to make this really entertaining for myself? And I was like, well, I don't know how to play pool. You're going to have to teach me.
Oh, no, that's also a classic.
Right? The worst.
Super classic. So I'm trying to keep my cool the whole time.
Wait, so when she looked over at you?
I didn't, I had saw her and Anna walk in.
Yeah.
First, and I checked them out, and then when she looked at me, I didn't, I wasn't like locking eyes with her or anything. I was kind of oblivious. Yeah, not yet. I was oblivious to it, and I was getting drinks at the bar, and I went back to the pool table. We'd been playing pool for some time, and then they came over, so it was like, oh man, gotta, because sure, when she walked in, I was checking her out.
Yeah, but then they made themselves
available
or
or
present.
Present.
Yeah.
Not available, but
yeah.
okay, so all right, so there was enough of a spark in both directions.
Right. Well, so the pool game ensued.
Yeah, the pool game ensued, and it was like, I mean, you're like very typical scene of like
Oh yeah,
you know,
movie
like,
classics.
yeah, like military dude swigging back beer out of a mason jar, trying to like instruct this fine girl on how to how to play pool. And I'm not a proficient pool player at all, all.
You had to play a role
But
though.
yeah,
exactly.
but I was getting exactly what I was signing up for when I was like, I don't know how to play pool. I was like, I need to see what this guy does with this.
Yeah,
interesting.
Let me teach you the mechanics.
Well, I'm curious about that moment because that's something I see all the time, in the dating world. And
Sure.
What if he had said, I don't know how to play pool. You're learning from the wrong guy, but I'm happy to play with you, or something like that.
Sure.
Then what would you have done?
I would have still gone for it. I mean, this was my man at this point. I was so interested in him, and so I would have just played along with any game.
Now, do a lot of Marines go to Pappy and Harriet's?
Yeah,
It's a pretty regular thing.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a small slice of the guys that are out here. You would be so surprised how many are like, what's that place?
I mean, I was there last night, and it was, I would say, 30% dusty locals, just making their living in the desert, and then probably 60%, I don't know, that leaves 10%, tourists.
Sure.
Yeah.
And actually, I was going to say 10% Marines, but I didn't see any.
Maybe they do a good job of disguising themselves sometimes. I had I had no idea he was a Marine at this night that we're talking about. I was clueless. I'd never met a Marine before, for one, so I guess that has something to do with it. But
yeah,
the chiseled jaw and the shaved head and the muscles are usually a pretty good
You're pretty
giveaway.
Scraggly at that point. It was the end of the week. He gets a haircut every week.
Every Sunday I get a haircut, so come Friday, Saturday, it's getting long.
It's getting pretty long.
Long hair.
You're almost a hippie at that
long
point.
hair, no care. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So we're playing pool, and during that classic shot where we're, leaning over the pool table together, he looked down and saw that my shirt was inside out and my skirt was inside out and my tights ended up being inside out as well because we had gotten ready in the truck in the dark, and he very calmly and sweetly pointed that out to me. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm so glad this happened right now because this is a great representation of how I am.
How I actually am. So you already know in our first meeting.
We're on it. So I went to the bathroom and changed everything right side in, and the rest of the night was really, really sweet. It was just like we sat on the couch for a bit and we were talking, and there was one point. It's really weird for me to try to remember, but I just remember one point he stopped talking. We were having this really great conversation, and there was just silence, and he was just staring at me, and so I just leaned over and kissed him, and then it was just over after that.
Wow.
Make-out session on the couch.
We'll make out sesh, and then
it was almost immediately thereafter. It was
I
like,
left.
okay, gotta go. And I was like, wait, where are you going? Oh, we're gonna go sleep in the truck. And I was like, wait, but I'll just like buy you a hotel room so you guys don't have to sleep in the truck. And I was like, yeah, peace, and just like disappeared into the darkness. Just like faded away.
I did write my phone number on your hand.
Yes,
first.
yeah. So like my cell phone was dead, and I thought it was way more appropriate to have like a physical exchange of phone number.
Oh yeah, and I was very adamant. I was like, "Do not wash your hands."
Yeah,
Do not.
Yeah, and I was very careful not to.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you're just like your magical, ethereal fairy woman.
I mean, literally,
off into the desert.
literally, like just like fade, like a mirage that fades.
Yeah.
You know, like what was that? What just happened?
That really happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the next evening,
How long were you supposed to be in the desert for?
the 2 days, 2 nights.
Oh, okay.
So this was our first night. The second night, we were going to the inn, the 29 Palms Inn.
Which is another classic.
Another classic, yes.
I'm glad you're familiar.
I've heard
An oasis
many good
in the
things
desert.
about 29 Palms Inn.
It's great. And I failed to text him back until like 9:30 the next evening.
On purpose?
Well, I was with my friend. It was her birthday. I was trying to be very respectful of my best friend, you know, and I didn't want to, you know, bring this guy around that I was severely interested in. And we had plans to do some acid that evening, my best friend and I, together in the desert. And she was like, "Oh, Sam, a Marine coming out while we're doing acid." I'm like, "Oh, you're right. That's a little weird."
Yeah, and he's not allowed to do it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we had taken a little bit of acid and we're sitting by the pool drinking some wine that we were just giggling and having so much fun. And we started talking to this guy visiting from the UK. A scientist, and he had our same type of humor, and he was great, and we were just hitting it off with this guy, and I was like, yes, this is my opportunity to text the Marine. And so I texted him, and I said, "Come over now," and he came over immediately. He was there within what seemed like 5 minutes.
Yeah, as long as it took me to drive the like 7 miles, you know.
And he walked through the door to this pool area.
Fresh haircut. This is a Sunday evening, so I got my hair cut.
Different clothing. Everything just seemed so different all of a sudden.
Well, also you were tripping.
Well, it hadn't
Right?
it hadn't hit quite yet. So I was still of like sane mind, and it was terrifying. I was like, "Oh, what am I doing with? He's a Marine and I am me, and this is bizarre to me. And oh crap, okay, like let's do this." And he came in, and it was the rest of the night. It was my best friend, a musician, and me, artist, Marine, and scientist, wandering the desert together. And
what a great mix!
And it was just one of those really special stranger experiences where everyone comes together and everyone just
clicks.
Yeah, it was
perfect. It was like all all contributing parties were great. I got along with Dan, right? Dan, the scientist. He was cool.
We can't find Dan. Dan, if you're out.
Do you know anything about him? His last name or anything?
No.
Dan, the scientist, had just recently been divorced and was headed up to Death Valley next.
Mm-hmm.
But like when her and Anna would kind of like trail off and be somewhere else, I was like, Dan the scientist just headed off.
Looking for frogs and
looking for frogs and tree snakes and sinkholes and all sorts of dangers. But
Boy Scout Club all of a sudden. Yeah. So it was lovely, and he stayed until 3 a.m. and he works at 5 or 6.
5.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was really stretching it thin, but before, so I was like, finally, and I was like, I got to take off. I mean, the night was great, so I can't do acid currently, but like as a teenager, I was like, and I just felt like I was right in. I was like, flashback, you know. I was like, all the humor made sense to me, and I just rolled and giggled too. And so it came time to leave, and so I kind of like reluctantly was like, I gotta go. And she walked me out to my car, and it was just kind of like, you know, if you're ever in Oakland, like, hit me up. And I was like, I'm not cool with that. Like, how about I just come up and see you?
Oh, right. You wanted something more.
Yeah. I couldn't just like let that go. It's too, I mean, I don't know. Is profound the word? Profound might be the word, but it was just like it was too much of a specific experience to just be like, you know, so long opportunity. Yeah. Maybe next time. I was not willing to let it go like that. So I'll come up and see what's up. And so the next day, I think around like lunchtime or something, I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" They're rolling out of town, and I was like, "Hey, what if I come up this weekend?" I gave very specific dates, and she was like, "No, that's not going to work."
I was shocked for one. I was like, "What? This guy is actually going to follow through and drive all the way up to Oakland to visit me. This is lovely." And
you probably have 2 days off, right?
Yeah, for a weekend.
So, wow, that's quite a drive for 2 days, which really is testimony to.
Well, he was looking to come up for like a little, like there's a 3-day weekend or something.
Well, it was it was a regular 2-day weekend, the first one that I had proposed.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
you were
I was
committed.
gung-ho about it. I was going to do it.
Yeah. And I had an art show coming up, so I was like, oh, no, not during my art show creation time.
Super busy.
But the day after it opened, I was like, you can come then. And so he did, and it was the day after my birthday. I hosted all of these cool parties, and I was still like cleaning up from them. And when he arrived, and he walked into just like my very strange Oakland life with all of my crazy friends who are all wonderful, but very specific. We had a very specific thing going over at the Starline, and I just threw him into the world real fast, real quick, and the next 4 days were just a whirlwind.
Total immersion. I mean, total. I didn't get there. It wasn't until like 3 o'clock in the morning because I worked late here and then got out of work, showered, and took off. You know, it was like an 8-hour drive or so, and I got there, but there was still a couple people up, and it was just even that was just like, whoa, you know, kind of like shell shocked from the drive, but everybody was just so like
entering a ballroom too.
Yeah, this like giant ballroom, but everybody was there kind of like waiting. They're like, oh, you're here. And they just like, you know, everybody was like ready.
Because everyone was expecting the Marine.
Open arms and stuff. And it was just like, whoa, you know, this is great. This is cool.
Culture shock for both of you. I mean,
yeah.
The Bay Area art scene, it's not just the Bay Area, it's the Bay Area art scene.
Yeah.
And it's not just any art scene. That's a well-established art scene with some real players, gallerists,
cool
buyers,
guys over there. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that must have been surreal.
I mean, the weekend was great. So really by chance, the way that it worked out was that the first weekend in November, which is when I went, is Veterans Day weekend. So I had a 4-day weekend. So it was great. Yeah, I got to spend 4 days up there, and it was just like, it felt like the vacation of a lifetime. You know, like 2 weeks. I felt like I was up there. And,
yeah.
What did it feel like coming back to?
It was a long drive, man. It was really, really, really a long drive, and like I called my brother. I was running down the I-5 and called my brother and just had to like tell him about the weekend, and he had no like reference or grasp, or even he had no clue what I was talking about. But I just had to like tell somebody about my weekend.
For either of those cultures, right? He's not a Marine either.
No, he's like small town,
definite
Western
small
Pennsylvania,
town
you
guy.
know?
Yeah.
But I just had to tell somebody about it because I was like, I mean, I'm still processing all this. I just need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it was great, and yeah, it was a long drive, but I was so excited, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen next, really, because...
Well, so before he left, there was this moment where he was thanking me for the weekend, and it was just this... We were, like, in the bathroom together, and you paused, and you were like, hey, thank you so much for this weekend. This was a lot of, like, firsts for you, right? Mm-hmm. And you said something about like this is the first time I've spent a substantial amount of time around a gay man.
Yeah. And
there were many of them, and also been like hugged by so many men. And when he said those things to me, I was like, oh my God, that's right. Like I was getting caught up in the magic of the weekend and this new person. And yes, my friends are weird and have like so many different lifestyles different than his, but it wasn't until that moment where I was like, oh no, there's some real meat here, you know, and some real differences, and it's really amazing that I offered some of that to this pending upcoming relationship, you know. I felt so happy that there was like thanks for that, I guess, and that my friends could provide that for this person that, I mean, to be honest, a lot of the conversations I had before he got there, people were nervous about a Marine coming, you know, there's a stigma, and
yeah,
and so it just made me so happy that it just seemed like a thing that was going to be really positive for everyone, you know.
Did you worry that there was too much of a cultural divide?
Yeah, I did. And that had a lot to do with the conversations I was having before he arrived, just because, yeah, I mean, I think that a couple of my friends were worried about it, or just being like, oh, this is a phase for you. You know, this is going to be an interesting thing. But it's not going to last, or, the cultural divide was big, but it took that weekend, I think, to kind of understand that it wasn't going to be too big, you know? Like, he just hung so hard. It was so nice to see somebody just accept everything happening around them and loving it all, you know? Like, you were so happy. Yeah. And so, I don't know very many people like that who would be stuck into these situations where they're wickedly uncomfortable or never had been a part of them, but just handled it really beautifully.
I mean, on my end, it was like I'd never. So like the Marine Corps is this like big fraternity, you know. Yeah. Everybody's just like, you know, we're like brothers in arms and everything, but there's still distance, you know, within like the like. There's like still very large personal bubbles, I guess you could say.
Between all of the men?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no matter how close you are in a particular regard within the Marine Corps, there's always still this like arm's distance. You don't really open up. There's particular ways that you don't really open up to one another. And that can really feel isolating. A lot of the times where it's almost like you're going through charades all the time. Like you have this front to put on. And yeah, I mean, it can just be very tiring and isolating and kind of like, if you think about it too much, really confusing. But this weekend was everybody, every single person was like literally there with like open arms and just ready to just dive in right and like pull me along. You know, I never felt like I was an outsider. I never felt that I was different. I immediately felt everybody was like, was just very engaged with me. And I mean, it was like, oh, this is great, because I don't feel like I don't feel like there's any expectation of me. There's no front that I have to put up. There was no like, I didn't have to put on any act, really. People just asked me questions and I just divulged, and then the converse was true as well. And it was just,
well, I'm so heartened to hear that, and I was concerned when the story was when you were leading up to the story, that part of what you were going to say was that you felt the stigma that she was referring to that some people have around the military, and because you were saying it was present, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But also the people that I had around me at that point are also very loving and welcoming people. Yeah. But I mean, of course, like there were some cautions, you know, and in my mind as well. It's not. It definitely. It was scary to me personally, because I knew nothing. It was pretty much just negative connotations that I had at that point, you know.
Stigma is always based in ignorance, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what we learn over and over and over.
Absolutely. And yeah, so it was beautiful. It was really beautiful.
So, but back to that point, just to put the period on the sentence, your friends did have their preconceived notions, but they were essentially loving enough in person that they didn't let it impact their interactions.
Right.
Definitely.
And so you didn't feel any of that.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it wasn't in any like, just like when I first got there. It was consistent throughout the entire weekend. And every single person that I met, like she had to gallery sit the one day. And that's when I met Ethan. And Ethan and I just hung out behind the gallery and just like heart to heart after like, I felt like it was like 4 hours out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys became great friends that weekend.
Yeah, and now when we go up there and we see him again, it's just like, oh, hey, like, bring it in, you know?
Brother,
Yeah.
Haven't seen you forever, man. You know, it's cool. It's so cool.
Such
And then just to launch into the art scene too, you know, that was probably where I was like, I was almost hitting a wall because I'm like, wait, you know, I'm looking at these works and stuff, and I'm like,
so it was my show that he's talking about.
And they're really cool. Like visually, they're really cool. But I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it was my preconceived notions, my ignorance.
You spent so much time like staring at every single piece. Just
but wait, what were you gonna say?
Sorry.
what
like,
did you
like I had these preconceived notions of like the art world where it was like I should be like tasting wine, spitting it in a trash can, you know, like eating some fine cheese, and then like, you know, contemplating the meaning of life while looking at this like abstract painting or sculpture. Or
I mean, it's hilarious, but it's not too far off the mark, actually.
Oh my God. I'm going to have to design a party specifically around this preconceived notion.
And like,
the trash can.
you know,
Everyone gets a trash can.
And I was like, I'm in there, I'm looking at everything, I'm looking at it, and like, and something that, things that appeal to me are like the way things that are made, you know, like visually, like kind of like tearing them down and figuring it out. But like conceptually, I don't necessarily get it, you know? And so I'm like waiting, when's the feeling going to come? Like when am I, you know, when's the art going to hit me? Like when am I going to have this decided feeling that's like, this one's called thought or something, you know what I mean? Just like, and that was kind of, I'm not going to say difficult for me, but almost like almost made me anxious. Like, come on, I gotta have something here. You know, I don't want to seem ignorant or like
the country rube who doesn't understand the art of this woman that he's really falling for.
I know art.
I
I love you. There's a little pinky finger out holding the scum of the glass.
Oh my God.
Wine stained lips and stuff.
Yes, oh God. But I remember at one point, off of what you were just saying, we were about to leave, and you're like, wait, I need to do one more round. I need to go back and look again. Because, I mean, I guess you just needed to see if it was going to hit you.
Yeah, trying to find it.
But that was so lovely. That was so beautiful to me. I was like, oh my God, he's trying so hard to relate to these things that I made, and that means so much to me.
The one, New Barracks, that I was like, hey,
it is,
I don't know what it means, but I recognize New Barracks. You know?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know Josh Hagler and Maya Resnick?
Mm-hmm.
They were on our show.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
It's I don't know, we're at episode 50. They're probably episode 25 or something.
Okay,
like
cool.
that. And they talk about how they want people to appreciate their art in that, which I'd always wondered from those two. Like, what do you actually want from people?
Sure, yeah.
You know what Maya said to me? This is a total tangent from the conversation. Cool. You know what Maya said to me? She said, I don't care what it invokes. I just want to know what it invokes in a person. Anything I want to know. And to be honest, as opposed to having to have these airs and, you know, about their intellectual understanding.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm getting better at coming in tune with the way that I feel when I look at art.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm getting there.
I mean, it's just the fear that holds you back. You know, it's
anybody,
right. Yeah.
You don't want to look like an idiot when you talk to the artist because they're so smart. I mean, they created this amazing piece, and you want to. Yeah,
nobody ever wants to seem stupid.
Yeah. Yes. I remember going to Josh's shows at that gallery where he was represented back in the day, and you know, I'd be coming from my law office, wearing a suit, and just wanting so bad to sound smart when I talked to Josh, you know, and then noticing that in myself, and then feeling like an idiot for wanting to sound smart so badly. It's just such a funny cycle.
It is, because on the other end of it, it's like the tangents and the weird things that people say are the best, you know, or like whatever hits them as soon as they see it. Yeah. As weird as it can be, if it makes little sense, that's the best. You know?
So that's what you were, and so is that what you were noticing in him?
Yeah. Well, for him, it was just the the commitment to try to understand or try to get somewhere. And like, I looked at his eyes when he was looking at everything, and they were just so interested and like just full of wonder, which sounds silly, but
sparkly.
But at the same time, like, that's one of the things that I love about you still is like all of the things that you approach, you're like, wow, okay, how can I get to the bottom of this? And where else does it go? How do I relate to it?
Right.
It's not just art making,
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that sincerity is really endearing.
Yeah.
It is, mm-hmm. All right, well, let's fast forward.
Okay.
How the heck did you end up coming from the city to 29 Palms? Obviously, it was for love, but
sure.
How did that come about?
So I was doing the Starline at the time, this big venue in Oakland, and trying to figure out this crazy business venture. And I hit a point that I just had enough. I couldn't do it anymore. I stopped making art for a long time and was very stressed out. And so I made this decision with my dad. My dad was so supportive of me during this whole time in Oakland, and I didn't want to quit. I was scared to quit. I really wanted to succeed and see it through. And so there was this point where it was just bad, and my dad heard this conversation that I had on the phone, and I got off, and he was just like, you're done. It's okay. It's okay to go. And so that was it for me. I was just like, all right, thanks for, the support. And the next day, Kate, who was renting one of our spaces at the Starline, she contacted me and said, hey, I'm getting a divorce. I'm splitting up with my partner who I've been painting with, and do you want to come to Italy to try to make art? And so I said yes.
And just for some context,
yes.
Kate is very successful and really well known
yes.
in that art community.
Absolutely.
And internationally.
Yes. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with her and her partner during this time in Oakland, and they were always a cool rock for me. So welcoming, brought a lot of cool people into their space, and it was just, she was kind of a magical human to me at that point. Yeah. And so her reaching out to me and asking this thing of me, I was so flattered, and I couldn't have come at a better point. And so I made plans to go to Italy, to leave Oakland, go to Italy. And it was during this time that I met Dylan, that I came down to the desert with my best friend.
Oh, it was during the break?
Yes, it was during this it was right before, yeah, it was during all of that weird moment of me not knowing exactly what was going to happen next. When I met Dylan, I knew that I was going to be going to Italy. And so I kind of prefaced our relationship with that, like, hey, I'm going to be leaving for I don't know how long. I'm going to go live there for a while, and we'll see what happens with us. And so I went to Italy, and we had a really, really hard time staying in touch. It was after that first weekend that he came up to Oakland, we made it a point to see each other a few more times back and forth between Northern and Southern California. And it was great. By the time I left, we were just like, we want to do this. This is really...
This being...
Him and I.
Meaning
whatever pending relationship was to come. We wanted to just try to make sure that we were going to stay in touch and, just, I don't know, make sure something happened, I guess.
Right, yeah.
Whatever.
Keep cultivating.
Was it, did it have any rules at that point?
I was just going to kind of talk on that.
Yeah,
we didn't, I mean, I guess it was a monogamous thing where we were like, okay, let's see what doing long distance monogamy looks like. I mean, in the beginning of a relationship.
Did you say those words?
No.
It totally came more from my end, because it was the routine or the arrangement that I was used to. You know, I was like, I remember asking specifically, like, are we going to be exclusive, or, you know, see other people? How is it going to work? You know, and I don't know if I can.
And
I don't know if I can.
the first time you asked me, I said no. Right?
Yeah, I think so. And before you left, it kind of came. It came up again, and that's why I didn't know. I'd never been in any sort of open arrangement, and it wasn't even a concept to me then, and I couldn't do it otherwise.
Well, that's interesting. So there's open and there's open. It seems to me,
Well,
right?
you're talking about open.
Like there's like polyamorous,
Right.
you know, where you have multiple partners,
Which
and
I
then
think
there's
is what he's talking about.
early dating phase where you're just dating other people. And which was this that you were thinking it was?
This was like moving from like just dating other people into like being exclusive.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But you're saying you didn't know that open relationships, as in polyamory, existed at that point.
Yeah,
that wasn't even in the universe.
Even,
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So when you said open, I wanted to.
Yeah.
The world was still flat back then,
Right.
You know? but yeah.
So we went into this time of me being away, doing the relationship thing, but he was really bad at talking to me when I was gone. Very, very
Terrible.
bad. Very poor.
My like email,
poor performance on his part.
My email correspondence proficiency
No phone calls,
was
nothing.
like,
It was dark days for me. I was just like, oh man, this thing that I was so excited about is over. Because he just stopped responding to me pretty much. And so I let it go for a lot of the time that I was there, and I just continued to try to make art with Kate. And when I decided it was time to come back to the States, I didn't want to go back to Oakland. I had no idea where I wanted to go, and I didn't want to give up what was in the works with this guy, even though he wasn't really communicating with me. I wanted to see what it looked like in the physical realm when I got back. And so I hit up my dad and I was like, Dad, do you want to hang out with me in the desert for a month?
Wow.
And so we rented a house together in the desert, my dad and I. And I told him, I was like, I'm interested in this guy and I really need help to see if it's okay for me. And my dad's my best friend, you know? And so, and he agreed to do it, and we did it, and it gave me the opportunity to see Dylan on the weekends and have him come stay with us, sometimes after work. But I stayed 45 minutes away from where he worked, and so there was just enough space to really, I don't know, have important time together, and it just allowed the space for us to kind of rekindle what was happening in a different light, in a light where I was kind of hurt by the fact that he dropped the ball, and also in his world where I was all of a sudden close to the Marine Corps base and kind of understood what was happening on his day to day.
Wow, that's two big issues. So how did you tell him about how hurt you were? Did he stop communicating?
I think I did it very lightly.
oh, it was extremely lightly.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was something that we really fully addressed or talked about until sometime later. Yeah, like weeks after you had been back, maybe, or yeah.
Yeah, and I just brought it up one day, and I was just like, "Listen, you have to know that this
like,
is a bad thing."
Yeah, like it's not going to work again, because she was like coming back for a very brief period and then working up
for
to
3.
go
I was coming
right back.
right. I was
right
coming back for 3 months, and then I
Yeah.
was going to go right back for 3 months, and so
Yeah.
I had this period of time where I was like, "We have to figure out this issue, because if I go again, this is not going to be an issue, and it's not going to work if this happens."
How did he respond?
He apologized and felt really bad. I could really feel that it was hard for him to listen to my sadness regarding the issue.
But not your criticism?
She was very elegant with her criticism, for sure. And I don't feel like I don't think I ever had a legitimate reason.
No.
And
well, I
like,
mean, after some time.
After some time, we cracked it open.
We did, yeah.
And I mean, I think there were two big things at play. One being that, I don't know, the routine that I was used to was like, the Marine Corps is very, people come and go. And you like establish a relationship with somebody, and then the next time you see them, you pick up right where you left off again. And it's almost like the upkeep, that constant contact is just like, it's not a focus or priority. And I was always very inept at communicating via electronic mail, and it was just definitely not a strong suit of mine. And also in that time, I remember I was really confused.
You were having a really hard time at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really, really stretched thin. I wasn't quite sure which direction I was moving. It's like Marine Corps is like this stable job with lots of security and comfort and whatever, but it's like it's easy to lose sight of where you're going because the nature of it is kind of obscure. Kind of just always waiting for something to happen,
right.
And preparing for a day that may never come. But yeah, these things at play, resulted in me just being really terrible at maintaining adequate communication.
Right.
And then being confronted with that on the back end was like, oh, whoa, like I've been a real ass, just I've not been doing my part, and I take full responsibility for that, and I did then, and I said that I wouldn't let it happen again.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna no matter what, I was gonna do whatever I had to make sure, even if it was becoming more proficient at electronic mail.
Love that you call that.
So good.
So did he not let it happen again?
Indeed, yes. He was true to his statement.
Well, that's it for part 1 of our interview with Sam and Dylan, folks. Thanks for listening. Tomorrow we'll dig more into how they manage criticism and conflict. They're such a sweet couple. Definitely don't miss it. If you'd like to learn more about Samantha, you can find her website at www.samstrand.com. That's SAMSTRAND.com. There you can see her recent work, and you can also see the collaboration that she references in our interview. I suggest you click on the link called Tedman and Strand. That work is just simply gorgeous. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference when you do that. And please also consider donating to our Patreon campaign. We're on a mission to crush shame, as you may know. And because we have far more expenses than we have income, every penny makes a huge difference. You can find that campaign at patreon.com/together. That's patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on our show, please reach out to us via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both @together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.